At least 8 people were killed and 22 injured in an Israeli strike on southern Lebanon Wednesday morning, even as a 2-week ceasefire was declared between the US and Iran. Footage showed thick smoke rising as firefighters battered burning vehicles, while paramedics rushed casualties to hospitals. Local medical teams confirmed several victims, including those trapped in the blast. The strike comes after Iran agreed to talks in Islamabad following US President Donald Trump's pledge to suspend attacks if Tehran reopened the Strait of Hormuz. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu backed the pause with Iran but stressed it does not apply to Lebanon, where fighting with Hezbollah continues. The UN says more than 1 million people have been displaced since clashes reignited last month, with Lebanese casualties surpassing 1,400. Iranian state media says a 2-week ceasefire has been agreed with the United States, with negotiations set to begin in Islamabad on April 10. In a televised statement, Iran's Supreme National Security Council declared a historic victory, claiming Washington had accepted its 10-point plan. The announcement follows US President Donald Trump's pledge to suspend attacks if Tehran fully reopened the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister confirmed armed forces would halt defensive operations and allow safe passage through the strait. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also confirmed the ceasefire effective immediately across the region. The truce comes after weeks of escalating conflict, including retaliatory strikes, explosions across Gulf states, and the death of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei.
Yes, the ongoing war in the Middle East is having.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says the growing conflict in the Middle East is driving up food and fuel prices at home. Speaking on Tuesday, Ramaphosa warned that global energy markets remain under pressure, with oil and petrol costs rising sharply. He noted the government has introduced a financial cushion to protect consumers following interventions by the finance ministry. The conflict escalated after US and Israeli military operations against Iran in late February, disrupting shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and pushing oil prices above $100 a barrel. Ramaphosa said the crisis is having a devastating impact on economies worldwide. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Russia-Africa trade reached $27 billion last year as Moscow accelerates its presence on the continent. Speaking on Tuesday, Lavrov highlighted that Russia now operates 45 embassies across Africa, describing the expansion as a rapid restoration of ties. He stressed that Russia is strengthening economic and diplomatic cooperation, positioning itself as a key partner for African nations amid global instability. The announcement underscores Moscow's push to deepen trade and investment links across energy, mining, and technology sectors. China and Russia have both blocked UN Security Council resolutions aimed at safeguarding navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. The draft proposed by Bahrain and Gulf allies won majority support but was vetoed by Beijing and Moscow. China's envoy Fu Kong argued the text failed to reflect the full reality of the crisis, blaming US and Israeli military actions against Iran. Russia's Vasily Nebenzia called the resolution imbalanced, warning it could further antagonize Tehran. Both countries urged negotiations and diplomacy instead. The vetoes come as Washington announced a 2-week ceasefire contingent on Iran reopening the strait following weeks of escalating conflict and the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Activists rallied in Beni against oil and gas project in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, denouncing decades of environmental harm in Rwanda linked to European oil company Perenco. Demonstrators carried placards and chanted slogans demanding reparations for families and transparency in oil contracts. They warned that drilling has damaged farming and could drag the country into both a security and climate crisis. Residents urged the government to halt new exploration projects, including in Virunga Park and Lake Kivu, and to invest in renewable energy instead. Perenco is currently on trial in Paris over environmental damage in the DRC but continues to expand production.
Rwanda faced an unimaginable task. Available choices.
Rwanda's ambassador to Ethiopia, Charles Karamba, has warned that ignoring the lessons of history can have deadly consequences as the country marked the 32nd commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Speaking in Addis Ababa, Karamba said denial is a continuation of the crime itself, stressing that hate speech and propaganda must never be tolerated. He highlighted Rwanda's path of unity and reconciliation while raising alarm over the FDLR's activity in Eastern DRC, which he described as an ideological hub for genocidal thinking. Karamba urged the African Union and international community to strengthen early warning systems and praised the AU's new human rights virtual memorial, underscoring Rwanda's commitment to ensuring such atrocities are never repeated. The fourth edition of GITEX Africa has opened in Marrakesh, bringing together more than 1,800 startups and innovators from over 130 countries under the patronage of King Mohammed VI. Footage shows of visitors exploring exhibition halls, vehicle displays, and startup showcases, while officials lead panel discussions. Morocco's Minister Delegate for Digital Transition, Amal Al-Falah Al-Sagushni, said the event offers local startups direct access to global investors with over 150,000 participants and $350 billion in active capital. Delegations from Nigeria and Russia also highlighted the exhibition as a gateway for partnerships across Africa. Organizers say GTEx Africa has become the continent's largest startup-focused technology gathering, driving deal-making and cross-border collaboration. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has renewed calls to shift the nation from an extractive to a productive economy, stressing the need to accelerate decarbonization. Speaking at the National Mining Formalization meeting, Petro said current wars are driven by oil disputes and urged a path of peace through clean energy. He warned companies like GEMSA to comply with immediate measures, insisting small-scale coal mining must transition to renewable power. The president highlighted unprecedented floods in Sucre, Cordoba, and Urabá as evidence of climate change's impact. Petro reaffirmed his commitment to sustainable mining and clean energy production, aiming to balance economic growth with environmental protection. Taiwan's opposition leader Chen Li-wun of the Kuomintang has begun a historic visit to mainland China at the invitation of President Xi Jinping. On Wednesday, Chen toured the Sun Yat-sen Mausoleum in Nanjing, calling for reconciliation and unity across the Taiwan Strait. She said that Sun Yat-sen's ideals of equality and inclusiveness should guide efforts to build peace and prosperity in the region. Chen arrived in Shanghai on Tuesday and is expected to travel to Jiangsu and Beijing, with reports suggesting a possible meeting with Xi. It is the first visit by a sitting KMT chair since 2016, seen as a potential shift in cross-strait engagement amid rising tensions and Taiwan's reported plans to deploy US-made HIMARS systems near the mainland.